Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Almost Made It podcast. We're very lucky this week, not because we got Matt, he's here every week, but we have a very good friend, Frankie Barilla, the under-18s head coach of Melbourne City. So a bit of a big deal.
Yeah.
Bit starstruck, here we are.
He's a young Pep Guardiola, they told me.
Young Pep. He's also Matt's teammate at the moment.
Yeah.
So he's not a bad player, I guess.
He's a captain too.
Captain Fantastic. So welcome,
That's
Frankie.
the first lie you've told. Not a bad player. That's the first lie.
He's good, not bad.
I'll take the young Pep Guardiola. Take that one. But
That's what your brother told me, so I'm going to stick with it.
How are we?
good. Thanks for having me, boys.
It's all right.
No worries.
How'd you sleep?
Last night, amazing.
Yeah?
Amazing. 10
After
hours
running
sleep.
against the wind,
That's right. After running at 35-degree winds and I
Shit,
slept like a baby.
You?
like a bagel.
A baby. Hey, cut that one.
Alright, let's start from the start, like we always do. Where did your story in football begin? Obviously being a player, when did coaching come into it? Let's hear it.
There's no real magical story, to be honest. I was primary school with a good friend of mine, and actually you probably know him, Danny Shabani.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people know him.
He used to come to Honors every day because he used to go to school across the road.
Yeah, this kid was everywhere.
He was always on Honors.
Everyone knows. Every time I tell this story, I just say his name. Everyone knows him.
Yeah.
But anyway, he was. We were like really close in primary school. I think we would have been grade 1 or prep or whatever. And he was playing for North City Lions at the time.
Oh yeah.
And I'd never played in my life. I mean, I played like at the park and stuff like that with my brother. But he invited me to come down to North City and went down. And I was the worst player in the team for 4 years. But we were good friends, so I stayed as
Nice
part of that
to get
team.
down, yeah.
Bench warmer for a little while there. Took me 4 years to score a goal.
Fuck, what a feeling that would have been.
Yeah, it was alright. It wasn't bad. Still can't score a goal these days. Nothing's changed. Don't know much about that feeling. But no, that's pretty much how it started for me. And then I played. We had his we had a really serious coach who was quite good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, not that it was very important for me because I was never good anyway. But the team was a successful team, and he taught us all the fundamentals. And then from there, just bounced around to different clubs. Started playing seniors I didn't make the cut at Melbourne City actually to make the jump from 16s to 18s because that's always still a thing now. You have to make that jump. Then I was a little player, didn't make that jump. Was considered quitting to be honest, but then went to go play for Melbourne Wolves, which was a State 3 club. And State 3 was State 3 back then. Like it was
There was
now there's NPL and everything like that, but back then it was
Decent.
It was decent.
Yeah.
And went to play there for an under 18s team, and then ended up getting picked up by the Resis and then the seniors like really quickly. So got that early exposure to senior football, which was really good. Then from there went actually back to Melbourne City for a season and told myself that I was going to make the seniors as quickly as I could. During that time at Melbourne Wolves, I was starting to help out coaching because it's just something I was interested in.
Yeah.
Studying psychology in high school and it was always just something that I was good at. You know, I'd always try to, even in my friendship group, I was always the one organising things.
Yeah.
When I was playing the game, I was never the big physical quick player. I was always the one that had to try to analyse things, study things to try to be successful. So had to use my brain.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to learn more and more about the game, and coaching was my way of, I guess, practicing that. And then from there, I met Carlos Dressler, who's founded the RFI Academy. And he founded that at Melbourne Wolves. So then started coaching from him, and he opened up a whole new world for me in terms of football.
Tell us a bit about RFI when you were involved. What it meant for a player to try and develop. Like, what was the philosophy?
It was just a whole new level of like detail in football for me, and it was philosophically, it was something I never even considered, which was something like really hardcore player development, which was something, I never had a coach for me that paid that much attention than what he was paying for 7-8-year-olds, which was crazy. So that all of a sudden I started to reflect on my own game in the detail that he'd reflect on these kids with. But that was so interesting for me. So obviously continued to work with him, stayed on as an assistant for a couple of years, but then got a team, then was taking 2 teams, and all the while I was playing. And once I started to take teams, it became hard to manage playing and coaching. Carlos always wanted me to give up. playing.
So
You knew I was never a player.
What a mate.
But yeah, I know. But then I spoke to other people, and I still speak to people today
Yeah.
that tell me to keep playing, no matter what, keep playing,
Yeah.
because you can always learn
Of
something.
course.
You know.
100%.
You know, in saying that, did you always think you'd get into coaching, or as you then got that role, did that really spark, your passion for it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that probably sparked it. That
And
probably
then you
sparked
took
it for
it.
sure.
Yeah.
But I could have seen myself potentially being a teacher.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, like
Mhm.
I was always that person that's very patient,
Yeah.
good communicator. Good with other people.
Mhm.
I think patience was the key. I was always a patient person. I'm very approachable.
Just with
Could
young
talk to people.
kids.
With young kids, it
Yeah.
worked. Yeah, it obviously works. So you need to have it.
I've got to say too, like, not to give you a big hit, but I was Frankie's assistant for all of 2 months or something.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah, on and off.
Yeah, when I first got back from Europe, I had nothing. So Frankie, I got in touch with Frankie, and he's like, "Come be my assistant in RFI," and I really enjoyed it for a bit. And I've got to say, man, like, this man knows what he's doing. Like, he's unbelievable at his job. So I just wanted to say that.
Thanks,
But
Alan.
before coaching, just taking a step back, was there a moment that you thought, like, I want to be a footballer? Was that ever a dream for you, or was it just, nah, I'm gonna go down the coaching path? Or did you ever have a bigger dream?
Maybe, as a kid, everyone does,
Mm.
and then the reality kind of hit you. But I did have a really good season at Melbourne City when I think I was 19. But for me, I don't think the dream was hardcore enough. I wasn't ambitious enough with it,
Yeah.
and that was probably my shortfall. Then the other thing was my mindset, which is something I focus on a lot with my players, was nowhere near where it needed to be.
Yeah.
I was very critical of myself, and I had the highest expectations for my performance, but I could never deal with that. I could never deal with the weight of those expectations. I never played a good game, in my opinion.
Yeah,
when
of
I was that age, now I play yesterday and I played atrocious, but I go home and go, yeah, I did some things well.
Yeah.
And my
Yeah.
mindset's a lot better. If I had those skills at that age,
Yeah.
so that was kind of my shortfall. I was always my biggest critic.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, when you've got adversity from everywhere, from where I was coaches, players, and I spent 6 months at North Sunshine Eagles. The crowds there and stuff, they're crazy, and you're competing with other people, and
Yeah.
there were good people that supported me there too, but it's adversity from all angles.
Of
It's
course.
challenge, and internally, you need to be your biggest supporter, your biggest fan,
Definitely.
and I wasn't that. So my career kind of fell short. I would always find the easy way out. I left Melbourne City because they got promoted. The coach had a chat with me and said that I might have to spend some time playing 21s. Now, I knew at the time I was better than that,
Mhm.
but instead of going and having that mental strength and saying I'm going to battle it out in 21s and prove him wrong,
Yeah.
I went and tried to find another club.
Yeah.
And that was one of the biggest mistakes I made, to be honest. So
Yeah.
then I went to North Sunshine Eagles, spent 6 months there, kept battling. Then there was a game that was comical that made me leave there because it was we played against South Melbourne in the Cup.
Yeah.
South Melbourne powerhouse, still the powerhouse that they are today. And they were 4-0 up halftime against us. We were playing at their stadium, Bob Jane Stadium.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to get on because I was on the bench. I really wanted to get on. And we concede 5-6 second half. I'm like, am I going to get on? Because I genuinely had this belief in myself that I was going to go on and do well.
Yeah.
I was trying to crack into the team, training hard,
Yeah.
Uses 2 of his subs. And there's me and the reserve goalkeeper. Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know if I told you the stories before.
No, I
but
haven't heard this.
anyway, 15 minutes to go. Still determined, switched on, focused. Subs the goalkeeper.
Oh, that's when he's taking the
I
piss.
was like,
Are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
Yeah, I would have walked off then and there, man.
so that game there, that was fuck.
No,
I had a lot of people come to watch, family and stuff, and that was really embarrassing in front of
Yeah,
family
100%.
for them to watch that because they came down. I didn't end up getting on. Obviously, used the 3 subs. Keeper conceded
it's an
another
insult,
2.
but
What a
that,
prick, man.
You know what I mean?
Nah, he was a good guy.
No,
He
he
spoke to
wasn't.
me. He spoke to
Be
me
honest.
on the Tuesday. I told him I was going to go, and he was like, "Look, yeah, I got
See
that.
you
I
later."
got that wrong. I don't want you to go. He's go, see you later. See you later. You're shit. Get out of here." No. He's like, "Yeah, look, I got that wrong.
Yeah.
I can understand how you feel. I really want
Yeah.
you to stay."
Yeah.
Then he messaged me a couple of weeks later saying, "This is after I dropped down a few levels. I went to go play back in, the lower levels just to have a kick because I'd missed playing so much because I was sub for so long."
Mhm.
And he called me a few weeks later and just said, "We've got all these injuries. You actually would have been playing
Mhm.
now." But it was what it was. Yeah.
There's also, honestly, I wanted to touch on the point of the mental side because I know Ali can relate as well. The hardness on yourself and all that, because I know we're exactly the same. Even now, still playing where we're playing, I still am hard on myself. It's just something that you've got to try and find the balance, I guess. But for you, say now that you've gone through that, you're older, you're working with younger kids, what would be sort of an advice for a younger kid? Let's say we rewind back. How would you approach it differently? Do you know, tips and stuff that you've learned?
For sure, everyone has to be their biggest fan.
Yeah.
You have to be your biggest supporter, your biggest fan. Some people have that person for them.
Yeah.
You know, a parent that comes to watch. Some people have a parent that comes to watch that actually hammers them. So it's the opposite. But you need to be that yourself, because you don't know when you're going to be on your own, and you're going to have adversity from everywhere. So, and then there's I learn a lot from. There's actually one sports psychologist, Dan Abrams, who's fantastic. His content is awesome, and I've read his books and stuff like that, and he's really good with that information. And it's all about you know, the things that you tell yourself, you know, because human nature, we want to tell ourselves negative things straight away. We go to the negative things straight away. You know, when we do something, we're critical of it. I mean, a lot of people are different.
Of course.
A lot of people have that ego and, you know, a mindset where, you know, it's never their fault or anything like that. But anyone that's done well at anything is probably critical of themselves, because they try to learn.
Exactly right.
So it's just about rearranging those thoughts. Like, you know, yesterday I'm hammering myself about all these missed headers that I had.
Exactly.
Flight of the ball was terrible, 35-degree gale force winds. You know, so that's how I deal with it. I could have done better. I know I could have done better. Yeah. But, you know, I still have that support for myself.
Do you know, this is a bit random, but that sort of mindset, so I was reading a little bit more into that, right? Because obviously, like Matt, we've had our mental struggles, you know, coming back, all the rest of it from Europe and whatever.
You expect so much from yourself.
And I started reading a little bit more. Now, I know this is a little bit off topic sort of thing, on where that comes from as like a human, right? And apparently we have it wired into us to be negative.
Isn't it from the caveman days?
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, like back then it was about survival.
Yeah.
Right? And it was always like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Like
Yeah.
if I go in this cave, am I going to come out alive? You know, sort of thing. So
it makes sense, but the way like humans have evolved and the traits we've like kept.
But it's funny how it still sticks around. But
there's a way that I've written it up for myself for when I approach players. And I think about the expectations they put on themselves and then their coping skills. And there's 4 different types for me. There's the players with super high expectations for themselves, low coping skills. And that was me.
Yeah.
You know, I had these expectations I was expected the most, but I couldn't deal with it. So what did that mean? What did I need from a coach? I needed someone to reassure me I was doing well, to help me build those coaching skills, to not lower my expectations, because expectations are good. You don't want players to expect little of themselves. Then you've got obviously all the other types that have a different approach. You know, you've got the types where kids, you know, can deal with a lot, you know, but they don't take themselves seriously. They don't have expectations for themselves. So you need to raise those. You know, you need to go and speak to them and tell them you can actually achieve this. I believe you can achieve this, you know, and what you're doing right now, you're not really testing yourself. So raise those expectations and So it's kind of, that's something that I've kind of thought about, and I take an approach to every player that I coach.
Well, I think that's really important that you treat everyone differently because you got 22 players, let's say, and me, Ali, you're coaching, we might have different personalities. I might need to kick up the ass. He might need a bit of like, love, So I think that's very important that I know when we grew up, coaches weren't like that.
No.
And that's a big thing, I think, that kids nowadays, they actually have the benefit of people like yourself that can teach them those things.
I was just about to say the same thing.
And also another thing I look at now is like in football, you can never take the highs too high and the lows too low. I feel like it's very important to keep like a very balanced mindset in terms of, because one day you might be up there and then tomorrow or next week you're there. So it's important, I think.
It's football,
is like that's a mindset that you need to do.
Arsene Wenger says it perfect. He just says tenacity is the most important thing in football. I know you've probably seen that quote before.
Definitely.
So true. Yeah. It's over the long term.
100%, because emotions are always going to go up and down. Yeah. There's got to be something more that keeps you going.
Exactly right.
But yeah.
So looking up at your Wikipedia page here.
No way. I don't have a Wikipedia page.
Did you I found it. You've had some coaching experience overseas as well, so we wanted to touch on that. Where did you go? How did you find it? Let's start there. Where did you go?
So it came up with the RFI teams going on the Spain tours. So the plan was for them to go around Spain and play against different opposition. But then I decided to stay on with Carlos, my mentor, he lives in Spain. So the teams went around and they competed. They played against teams that were technically a lot worse than them, a lot worse. Wow. Tactically, I doubt they'd had the same tactical preparation that we had, but they would get all that from the culture there. And then physically, we were probably better as well. But these teams would smash us. It was ridiculous. It was the craziest thing. It was the biggest eye-opener for me, for sure. Especially me as like a young player. I was I would say I was so soft as a player. Until I went there, I didn't realize how soft I was. You know? Until I saw 11-year-olds there going at it, I was like, shit. Like I reckon that 11-year-old could actually kick the shit out of me. But it was an appreciation for the game that I learned when I went over there, and that's what it was. And for the Aussie kids as well that went over, they learned that too. That there's that other side to the game that you can prepare all of this, but you can still get your ass kicked if you don't do all that.
Was that like the culture shock for you? Or was there something else as well that really just opened your eyes? You're like, shit.
That was probably it. And there was a lot of lessons that I took from there. The biggest one was that aggression side of the game, that fight.
Definitely.
But it gave me confidence in the fact that I could create that in players as well, that they didn't need... I mean, the context helps. When you've got someone fighting against you, of course you fight too.
Yeah.
And here a lot of the time, the reality is we don't have people fighting against us because it's games that still finish 10-0, 15-0 and all that. Like the structure of our competitions here... It's terrible. It's terrible.
100%.
So, but you can still create that in people, you know, and because everyone has that in them, we're not any different to the people over there biologically, you know, we're the same people. It's just that
mentality,
which can be created, it can be found within everyone because everyone has a fight or flight response.
Yeah.
So it can be brought out in anyone.
Yeah.
That was another key takeaway. And then the other one was that, you know, I was expecting to see like tactical detail in the coaches and impressive in performances from the coaches and everything like that. And when I went over there, I didn't see it at all. You know, I saw the same thing as here, really, the same thing, you know, and that, like, because I'd not grown up, but Carlos had taught me to believe that we were inferior here in terms of coaches and whatever, you know. But going over there, that gave me a lot of confidence, to be honest, seeing what the level was like there. I didn't feel like they were that different. To be honest, they carried on a lot. A lot of the people there, they're similar to the coaches that we would have been brought up with. That just shouted and whatever. But it's okay in the culture to swear at kids and to go off and to lose your shit. And when I saw that, I realized that like I didn't, you know, it gave me that confidence to think that you know I can still do this. You know, I could see myself coaching there. So, and then once the tour finished, Carlos was at Getafe at the time. He was working as a scout there. But he had access to training and stuff like that. So I'd go in and watch training sessions, not interfere or anything, meet people if, you know, just be polite, but just go and watch training and took so many notes and stuff like that and was going to watch as many, because there's open sessions all the time there. Yeah. Crazy. Like, you couldn't do that yet, you know. But you could go and watch Rayo Vallecano, pretty easy. Leganés, pretty easy. Lots of different teams. You could just go into their trains. Getafe as well. Like Getafe, I was sitting there and the players are come walking past me. I was sitting there having a coffee in the cafe and I was like, these are pro players. Like I'm just a member of the public from Australia. They don't even know. But like, no idea. Yeah. So
that would have taught you like so much, just like seeing it up front. And what were some of the things? Actually, I wanted to ask you, if you had to pinpoint, that's a broad question. What do you think needs to improve here dramatically to sort of breach the gap? Let's say. In your opinion,
or is there a gap?
Is there a gap? Or what, in your opinion, for football in this country to raise to the next level? What do you think?
Sorry, just on that as well.
Do you know what I mean?
We've always been a firm believer, and we've had it drilled into us that up until around 16, we can match it with Europe, right? Yeah. But then something happens. Yeah.
And we saw it firsthand.
Exactly. When we go into senior football, something happens. Yeah. What's like sorry, this is a massive question. Your opinion on this whole sort of topic with development and getting into senior football, I suppose.
Well, what becomes important after 16 is competing. Yeah. Players have to know how to compete at that age. And the reality is for us, we can match it with the younger ages. Why? Because we're technically good enough. Yeah. We're the same people, you know. We're technically good enough. We're physically good enough. It's the same. But when it comes to competing, if we haven't had that experience, which we haven't, because the structure of our competitions is, like I said, like it's terrible. It's terrible. The best is not playing the best. Sure. And it's been the same thing I've been coaching for 12 years now. The same thing for 12 years. 100%. It's the same thing. Like it hasn't not improved. I mean, they've done this tier system with the NPL, but these first 10 games that we've had, or we're going to have, six now to this point, we've had 3 games that have been over 15-0.
Yeah, that's a piss.
And these are the
under 18s.
These are the most talented players for their age in the state, playing at Melbourne City, and they've got games that are a complete waste of time. Nothing against their opposition.
Yeah, of course.
No. And they shouldn't be exposed to it either. Exactly they should have a better level of competition for themselves because they don't get anything out of that too.
Exactly right.
But that's the biggest problem. It's across all ages and it's just all a mess and it's all a disaster. We come from like when we were younger, there was the Super League.
Yeah.
Better time for football, I would say, in this country at that time.
For sure.
And that was that's the number one. That's the number one thing for me.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think that's one thing that when people ask us about our overseas experience, the first thing that I say as well is like, you walk into like a senior change room here or something, and you notice compared to overseas the seriousness, and a training session is not just a piss take. Let's say here people go to training, it's like there each session, each five-a-side, you want to win, you want to compete, you want that position. It's that mentality I think that really sets things apart, and you notice it when you're there.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're touching on is huge.
Yeah.
That kids hopefully can now start to understand that, because people like yourself are coaching them with that mentality from a young age, because it's huge. If you don't compete, for me, like you said, if you don't have that fight and you don't want to win, you don't have that mentality, you could be the most talented player going around, but there's going to be a time when that's not going to get you far enough.
That's definitely the thing I took away as well.
You
prepare for training as you would a game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you need to listen to your music, whatever. Everyone's in the change rooms. It's quiet before the training session. Everyone's getting ready. After it's different.
Nothing.
Yeah. But for me, that was the biggest takeaway as well. And it's hard to recreate that.
Yeah.
It's so hard to recreate that.
Especially when you're winning 18-0.
Absolutely.
Because you think, like, what's the point?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been very difficult for us. We've started to set individual challenges in games, and
exactly.
There was at one point where the players were, from my opinion, they weren't getting enough adversity, because adversity is good, healthy. It drives people forward, to cope with adversity. And there was 3 games on the trot. We scored like 15 goals and won by this incredible margin. The players were full of themselves. They were wrapped. So every time I was addressing them or speaking with, I was like, challenge, stretch. Came to the point of 3 weeks where I was like, I've been so negative with these kids.
Yeah.
For like 3-4 weeks. They must think I just started with them.
Of course.
I must think I'm the most but I was like, this is what they need.
Of course.
So at one point we just won another game of 15 goals or whatever. I just, boys, look, like, well done. Like, what you guys have done, continue to do, even though the adversity is not there, to still go and push yourselves and drive yourselves. When there's no opposition, you're challenging yourselves against yourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you've done it for 3 or 4 weeks now. Just, well done. But it's
What do you do though?
Almost like better training.
The training's so important.
Straight out, like, as in if you're winning 15 every week, it's almost like you're getting more out of your training sessions.
Yeah.
Because you can actually challenge each other.
Yeah.
But like you said, what can you do?
That's it. You create the context of training.
Exactly.
The context they're not getting on the weekend. You create it at training.
Yeah.
And
is it working mentally for them? Do they switch on and think? You know what I mean?
It's not the same. It's not the same.
It's
not the same.
Yeah.
Today we played against Dandy City, and I hope none of my players listen to this, but we set up a kick-off set piece.
Really?
So the Napoli one.
With
Napoli,
all the players,
all the players. Yeah. So we spoke about it during the week. They were buzzing. They wanted to try it.
Yeah.
Showed them in the pre-match today the clip of it. They loved it.
Yeah.
So go kick it off. Set it to the centre back. Centre back sets it for the other one. The other one didn't react, or they just miscommunicated. Striker runs through, takes the ball, goes and scores. 1-0 down, 10 seconds, and then it was like Dandy City, like hostile place to be. Their players were G'd up and whatever. So 1-0 down, we scored the last kick of the game to win the game 2-1.
Oh, shit.
But that was like a game. That was
But that's what you probably need.
That's what we need.
The adversity going down.
And that was so good. That was so good for them. And you see in that game, good performers and bad performers, and not just technical flaws in the players. You see, character flaws in the players, and you see, he didn't step up in this match, or he pulled out there, or he didn't arise to that challenge, or he lost his head and got yellow card. So this is what they need to be able to learn to compete.
You would have known more about your plays in that game than you have all season.
Absolutely,
because that's when they learn.
Absolutely.
That actually reminded me of something. That little story there.
Is that the free kick?
No,
I know.
So we were playing together at Northcote back in the day, and we used to work on a free kick.
We used to work on
we had a lot of set pieces, and this was like number 3 or something, right? And we played this Frankie. I don't know how many times we've done this.
This was a pack at Darabin as well. I remember.
I think it was against South Melbourne.
Yeah, it was.
Big game, and looked at Matt. We were going to do it. So it was me, Matt, and Tommy Damalis. If you're watching, however, and it was one where like. Someone steps over the ball, he makes a run around the wall, and you just play him through.
Like a decoy
and someone's looking like they're taking the shot. So I was the guy pretending to take the shot, and Matty had to play it into Tommy, right?
Tommy had to run over the ball, but
yeah. So like, alright, we're gonna do it. Yeah, everyone, do the nod. Yeah, we're gonna do it. Number three. Alright, yeah, we're G'd up. Finally, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it finally after how fucking long. Tommy goes to run over the ball, falls over the ball, right?
Nah, he touched
studs.
He touched the ball.
It's in play. It's bobbling, and he's running straight. So he hasn't even looked back. And then Matt literally just drills the ball straight in the back of him.
Then I panicked, because he touched it, and then obviously the ball's in play, so the wall's coming out. And
so you had to do something.
I'm like, fuck, what do I do? So I'm trying to play to him, and I just cracked it straight into the back of him, and it was like comedy fucking capers.
Copped it on the counter as well.
Alan's like losing it on the side. We're trying to run back. Like, what the fuck just happened? But
oh my god.
Yeah, you could have brought it back a better memory than that.
Sometimes these things are better on paper, huh?
Yeah, just doesn't
just better on paper. Leave it to Napoli, yeah?
Yeah, I reckon too.
Sometimes you're...
Next sort of question I want to get into. Have you had a moment where you like look at a player so far in your coaching career, especially Melbourne City as well? I'm sure you come across many talented players. Yeah. Do you look at someone and you just know they're special? Like, do you get that a lot here? Yeah,
for sure. And I use that word, but I don't use that word often.
Yeah.
But when I use that word, people know that this is serious.
And what do you do with them? Sorry, as well.
Prefer them to Melbourne City.
Yeah.
Get them there. Get them that environment. It's just it's the best environment in the country. Definitely. The way I see it. I don't know the ones in other states, but I can't see them being as good as this. This is just a top environment. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you can see it. You can see it for sure. Yeah.
What's like say someone in the 18s, you look at this kid and you're like, wow, he's special. What's the next steps as a footballer? So they're playing in Melbourne City. How does he go then into the next level?
At Melbourne City, there's a pathway there. Mm-hmm. It's a big pathway because there's also the option with their partner clubs to go overseas.
Yeah.
But that pathway is very, very real to go all the way through to A-League from Melbourne City because we've got now the 21s playing in a reserve league. NPL 2, not doing great at the moment. Okay. Not the reserve team, the first team. I think they're struggling, but that's because they're all 18, 19 years old.
Of course.
But the under 21s, which are kids that are mostly born in 2006, so they're turning 17 this year, are playing under 21s reserve football. The under 23s, which are mostly kids, I would say born in 2005, maybe some 2004s. Sometimes an A-League player drops down. And they're playing senior football in NPL 2. And then obviously the more exceptional ones already training with the A-League and doing things like that and sitting on the bench. They might do a bit of both and there's a mixture between the two.
Yeah.
But that pathway is there for them. Yeah.
That's so important. Like, when we were younger, there was nothing there.
Yeah, also touching on that, you said some will train with the first team, like the A-League team, and then... So if they're on the bench, do they also play like under 23s?
Yeah, they can do both.
So they actually get game time every week.
Yeah. They just manage it.
So that's another thing that's unbelievable. Because like sometimes when you're pushing between reserves and first team, you might sit on the bench for the first team, but then you don't play. And you're always on the bench playing 10-minute cameos, but being able to then go and play still and have that first team experience
and play senior football.
It's huge,
and play senior football, NPL 2 football. It's not like you're dropping. When we didn't play seniors, we played reserves. It was dog shit.
Exactly.
But this is like, you're not playing A-League, but you're playing still senior football. NPL 2 as maybe a 19-year-old,
That's so
and you've been part of the match day squad of like an A-League team. It's just that whole experience. And then I think when you do break into that team, it's not like, oh, fuck, I'm in the first team. It's like, I've been here, done that. Now just play my football. I'm confident and ready to go. I think that's a very good pathway.
Yeah. Also, speaking about development, we've spoken about this before. Did you think the Socceroos getting as far as they did in the World Cup was good or bad for Australian football development?
See, for football development, it was bad.
Okay.
It was bad.
Yeah, definitely.
But I'm different to you guys because that game, 2006 World Cup where Italy played Australia, we were cheering for different sides, I think.
We got
for Australia.
Get out, man.
Well, I started the game. That was the game for, I think, any Italian Australian where you decided. That was the game.
I honestly agree with that because it was like split down the middle for so many people.
But I started that game. I was going for Italy.
Yeah.
I was like, But then by the end of the game,
really,
I swear to God, it was the craziest thing ever. But start of the game, I was like, Italy, whatever. But then end of the game, I found myself cheering, and then when we conceded that penalty when Australia, I was shattered. I didn't even realise till after. I was like, shit, I started this game going for Italy. But that's when I guess everyone kind of realised.
Yeah.
I feel like that Socceroos team, but was like, is the only, like, not that I've ever really gone for the Socceroos, but that was the only Socceroos thing where I was actually like, oh, there's some good
No,
plays
they
in
were,
there.
they were good.
You know what I mean? Where I was like, yeah, that's decent. But like now, I don't know. I just find it very hard to. But that team was a good team.
That was our golden generation. That's what we call it.
You had half of the most of them playing in Europe.
Oh, top leagues in Europe as well, every week playing consistently.
But that was the thing with that game. Like, with the World Cup.
The World Cup
for development, it was
definitely.
No, it wasn't good because it gave us a false sense of
exactly
where we're at.
Right.
Yeah,
that's exactly
just
what
threw a blanket over everything, really.
Yeah.
So, then in your opinion, what's gone wrong? I know we could talk for hours here, but if you could the main.
Yeah, it's hard to summarise it honestly in a short time. There's a lot that's happened.
Mm-hmm.
The introduction of the A-League and the removal of NSL, that was a big thing. That was a big thing because NSL clubs were completely different to the current system now.
Yeah.
NSL clubs had ex-players, people involved in the club that would go and coach an under-8s, under-9s team, and they would put everything into that because they knew that those players would one day represent their club. Exactly. Melbourne Knights coach 100%. Wouldn't, or Melbourne Knights player, he didn't have to leave his club, you know what I mean? Like they were communities and they used to put everything into their community, and you had a big number of places that were doing that across the city.
Yeah.
And so then when they were playing against each other, it was competitive. So you had people that were investing a lot, and not just in terms of people but also resources in their youth.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had good competition, and that was the that created the recipe for those players to come and rise to the top. So at the moment we don't have that.
We don't.
Somewhere like let's say a Georgie's does well to invest in a player at under 8s. Western United takes them.
Yeah.
What does Georgie's get?
Yeah, nothing.
What does that person that was an ex-player at Georgie's that decided to coach and put his hand up and stay back at Georgie's and coach the under 8s, then take them to under 9s, take them to under 10s? He gets an incredible feeling of gratification for himself that he helped this player, but that's it. And the reality is, football is, you can't expect everyone to be like that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a philosophical thing, and you can't expect everyone to go and just do that for gratification,
It's hard, man.
And that's the people that are doing it these days. Massive appreciation for any coach, because that's why they're doing it. They're literally doing it out of gratification.
Definitely.
Some aren't. That's another problem.
Yeah, they're doing it for the wrong reasons.
They're doing it for wins at 8, 9, 10 years old. That tournament win, and that's how they get their gratification.
Yeah.
Not seeing their play.
It's like they're living their dream through.
They're living their dream through the kid, and they get that feeling and that positive energy through. Them getting the win, but it's a short term. It's not a long term approach for the player.
Definitely.
And so there's a lot of them out there too. I should say.
I feel like the A-League almost took football back 15 years now. Now it's just it was going okay with the NSL, but now it's just starting from scratch again. Because
I was watching
what they've done.
Yeah,
I don't know.
We always cop it here, football in the media. That's a massive problem.
And that's another thing.
That's a massive problem.
Huge.
And I'm one big believer of I genuinely believe there's an agenda to not
100%
push football up there, because realistically, not whether you're a football fan or not, the scale and the size of the sport, it's always going to be a dominant sport. No matter which country, it's just the world. You can't you're never gonna. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And it's even comparing AFL to footy to football, whatever. But it's just I think AFL know that football would just take over, and not. It's not a hit or a knock at AFL at all. It's just the pure size and global capacity of football.
Yeah.
And I feel like the media, there is an agenda against football, whether it is negative, and even when the World Cup's on, it should be front page of everything. So Socceroos against Argentina in the quarterfinals, around the 16, whatever it was, and it wasn't it's not even that well advertised. Whereas you look at another country, obviously we were living in Italy, and the whole country stops because for football, you got nonnas there, 89-year-olds that are watching the game, talking about the game, and it's you have to build that. Everyone should be stopping to watch the Socceroos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen. So that's another problem.
I think that soccer bashing is huge.
It is.
It's really bad, and it's founded on racism.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Because soccer was the Wogs game.
Yeah, definitely.
And people were speaking to my nonna the other day. He never told me his story, but he got bashed. By an Aussie.
Soccer?
No, just by an Aussie. Back in the day, he's walking down when he first came here. He goes, "This is how bad it was."
100%.
They used to happen all the time. They used to get jumped because they were the immigrants. So soccer was their sport. So it was always good to bash soccer when it's soccer. People at it again. And now the way they do it is whenever something happens in the sport, they make it front page news. They over exaggerate it to make it look terrible.
Yeah.
Your evil twins Melbourne victory.
Yeah.
But it's true.
It's a perfect
But then,
example.
remember Richmond won the grand final?
Yeah.
I remember, Punt Road, there was Aussies and all that. Well, nothing against like Aussies, but, Aussie fans on top of the roof, they were ripping flares, signs down. Oh, the Richmond fans having the time of their lives after Richmond break the premiership drought. Then you do that to Logan Street.
Euro 2020.
Hooligans, wogs, this, that, that burn the
Yeah.
street down. You know what I mean? It's just like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Look, just do it from a neutral perspective
Yeah, no.
and call it for how it is. Not, but the media is the media. Like, let's not get into that
Yeah.
because they're all full of shit. Like, I'm not gonna lie.
Do you think the whole thing revolving around the culture in the NSL, removing that out of football, was bad for the sport?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah. But it started with that because we used to get a bad rap.
Yeah.
And NSL clubs were the heart of that because they were so passionate. The byproduct of that passion was the things that used to happen. And I was never around for that.
Exactly.
I went to think a couple NSL games in my life, because I was only young.
Definitely.
But just speaking with people and being around the sport and the way people speak about how it used to be, and their experience of going to games and really loving it and buying into their club, and you don't have that.
You see, even the footage, it's crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And I think I don't understand that notion of like taking the culture out of it because football is a worldwide sport. That's the beauty of football. That people associate, like let's say the Croatians associate with Melbourne Knights like almost like a community. It is.
Yeah.
It's not only just a football club. It's where they all gathered. When they first migrated. Same as like Brunswick Juventus, South Melbourne and all that.
All these big clubs.
So, but then you look at like a Melbourne Victory or a Central Coast, like it's just a whole like state. Who's actually connects to that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's not that connection as a fan. Whereas for me, it's like I've never really associated with an A-League team because of that. Because I'm like, well, I don't really have any affiliation with them.
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
like if I was like growing up in Essendon, like maybe Essendon Triestina, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's not from, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm from there, that
it's not.
there's a bit of more connection, a community.
The words you're using are perfect. Association, connection.
Yeah.
That's a perfect way to explain it because that's what a fan is to a club.
Correct.
And
Definitely.
the club needs to. Sometimes there's a connection because of history, because of family, because of culture, because of nationality.
Yeah.
And they just ripped that away.
Yeah.
That was the connections because the clubs were founded on that.
Exactly. Right.
And they took that access to the top division away from them, so they took away a lot of resources from these clubs.
Yeah, definitely.
And then obviously but I mean, there's other ways to connect with fans. I believe there's other ways,
Of course.
and the challenge that we have is doing that.
Yeah.
The A-League's doing the best they can to try to connect with new generation of fans. I think the best way to connect with fans is by representing them on the pitch. You have to do that because that's another way, a representation in terms of football, and that's what I go for Arsenal. Because I was an intelligent, young, skillful player. I was never the big brute, whatever. But
definitely.
the football that Arsene Wenger played and the way that team played, that I connected with that.
Exactly right.
That I associated with that, and so that I wanted to go for the team and support that team. Because there was an idea and an identity there that connected with me. Definitely. So there's other ways for us to do that.
So you're saying by playing beautiful football, that's how we can connect with, say, Melbourne City.
Absolutely.
And to be fair, you're not wrong because out of all the A-League, especially in the last few years, not because you're here, I'm not just going to say Melbourne City, but generally that's why if I had to watch an A-League club, I'd watch Melbourne City because they tried to play that free-flowing football that Manchester City play. There was that sort of, this is what we stand for, this is how we're going to play, no matter what. So I'd watch them. Whereas then you turn on the game, like nothing against Central Coast or Brisbane Roar, but it'd be a fucking dog shit. I'd be like, man, I'd rather go watch like City G match. You know what I mean? For the quality wise. Yeah. But it's like that. You're right. That is something that for us, few football purists, I think we can relate to in a different way instead of just like the passion of the fans, whatever.
Yeah. But it has to look good.
It does. Exactly.
There's no lie. There's no for people like you that are football people.
Definitely.
You're not gonna, and there's like you said, there's no other connection there.
It's so
it
true.
has to look good and it has to represent you. You have to see a player there or a passage of play there or the way of going about things that you go, yeah, that's the way. Right. And then
there was a tiny bit of time before Melbourne City when it was Melbourne Heart.
Yeah, we used to go.
Where we resonated with the fans, right? Because they were all sort of like our age at the time, footballers. We had so many friends like all over Victoria that used to go watch Melbourne Heart.
And it was almost like, because everyone used to go for victory, you wanted to be different.
You wanted to be different. And that was good, that active support,
Yeah.
the flares and all the rest that we love it. Us now, we're still a bit crazy, but And then that got taken away as well, like the banners and all that. And then it was just another kick in the...
It's like Western Sydney. They had a really good
exactly,
atmosphere.
them as well. Like,
I also watched the Western Sydney games just to see like what T4 they would bring out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was a bit of that going on.
and that's gone as well.
And it
what
started
do you go for,
reaching
you know?
like globally.
Yeah.
Now, man, they've just torn that out.
Atmosphere is a massive thing. Atmosphere.
100%.
You know?
But I really like what you said though.
Yeah.
About resonating with the actual
Yeah.
football.
It's an interesting
Yeah.
way to look at it.
Yeah.
Never thought of it in that
No.
way.
But that, like,
Yeah.
look, I mean, yeah, what you guys are saying about the atmosphere is huge. It's huge, and you're right. They take like it feels like anytime some sort of active support gets going,
Yeah.
they drop it down, and it's because of. I mean, I don't know the real reason. There's got to be bigger
there's gotta
reasons
be,
at a higher level,
100%.
but I just see the soccer bashing,
Yeah.
and I think that how careful you have to be around a soccer game to not end up on the main, on the front page of the newspaper. Like
You're basically walking on eggshells.
you're walking on eggshells,
Yeah.
Exactly.
But as young kids and whatever, like people go for the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So you hammer that, and then people don't want to go because they go into the stadium and there's not that vibe and that feeling there. So
exactly.
Exactly. Right.
that's something that we've always been at odds with, and yeah,
It is. It's one of those things we could talk about all day, but
Yeah.
there's so many little things.
Mm.
Just a little change could make such a big difference.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
just a little simple thing like that, allowing the fans to express
Yeah.
themselves
Yeah.
and show their passion towards their team.
Yeah.
It would be huge.
Yeah. If you sort of had to pick the feeling that makes you sort of so the proudest to be a coach, well, like what's the best feeling being a coach for you? What gives you the most satisfaction?
it's probably the relationships with players.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you build a relationship with a player, and you can because through a strong relationship you can really genuinely help someone. There's helping someone on a superficial level, and
Yeah.
I shouted at him, what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And he picked up his game.
Yeah.
But then there's proper building a relationship with someone, getting to know them,
Definitely.
and you being vulnerable with them being vulnerable with you, so that you learn everything about them, and then helping them on their path. And that's what I aim to do. Yeah.
Jesus, so much that
It is.
we don't even think about. Like we just rock up, play the game, go home. These poor guys, man.
Well, I've seen it now just being a part of Frank, like with you at Meadow Park, like the other night in training when you brought in those clips and stuff, and like I'm just thinking like you go through them and all that, and the way you're thinking, and it's like I'll go to training exactly. I'll just rock up,
Put
and
our
then I'm
boots
like,
on.
fuck. Then you look at Frankie's like going over there, but it's unbelievable because I'm playing there, but I'm learning as well. Even I'm still learning, like having had all these experiences, and I think that's so important. And it's good to see that there's people out there like yourself, because I know when we were like that age, besides when we had Alan, let's say, there wasn't much out there. So
No.
it's good to hear that.
Yeah. So
Football's going in the right direction.
on that the relationship side, like the last team that I had was the Green Gully team,
Oh yeah.
the under 15s.
Yeah.
I had them for 2 years. I had them for 14s and 15s.
Yeah.
And the Melbourne City role came up, a full-time role, not the one that I was doing now, but another one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I had to leave that team, and
Killed
it was because I'd never been in that deep with a team,
Yeah.
and with the players as individuals,
Mhm.
and to leave them and to step away was incredibly difficult, because the players were kind of like,
Yeah.
what now? And I still stay in touch with a lot of them today,
That's
but
good, yeah.
there was kind of like, what now? Like you were helping, and I was kind of like,
Yeah.
the only way I could cover
It
it
is,
was like,
yeah.
boys, you're on your own journey now.
Jeez.
You're prepared. I've prepared you as much as I could. Now you guys
It's
go.
like maybe fly on your own sort of
That's
thing.
it.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's
But I guess you might cross paths, because football's one of those things.
it's
Like,
funny.
That's
game.
right.
in now in 5 years' time, you might cross paths and
Yeah.
help them or coach them in a role, which is
Absolutely.
football's a very small world like that.
I just think like we speak about player management a lot, and it's easy to speak about it when you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
I just think it's amazing how you can pick someone out and say he needs this, he needs this. he
It's a
needs
skill.
this.
I think it's
unbelievable.
one of the most important skills as a manager, aside tactics, to get the best out of a player. If you can manage them,
Yeah.
and know what they need at the right sort of times.
Is it a lot different with the age groups? Like now that you're coaching under 18s compared to when you were at RFI coaching younger age groups, do you look out for the same things, or is it a little bit different now?
It's a lot harder with the older age groups, because kids, they respond to authority.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're an authority figure, they'll respect you.
Definitely.
Whereas as people get older, they have to like someone. Has to be that mutual respect.
Definitely.
So you have to, if you're not a good person, like I've had coaches in the past where
Of
doesn't
course.
matter what he said to me and how true it was, I was like, I'm not fucking doing that
Yeah.
because you said it.
Nah, you're spot on,
Because it came out of your mouth.
Yeah. It's so spot on.
So it has to be, you have to manage those relationships. They have to like you. Well, not like you. They have to respect you
Respect you,
because you might do things that they don't like,
Definitely.
but there has to be that mutual respect. That's the difficulty with the older ages, and then it's
And then I think as they get older too, they've got their bad habits have sort of become habits, so it's harder to get that out of them.
Exactly.
You know, like when you've grown up, say you've got a player from 13, you've evolved him in that mentality. When he gets to 19, it's like he's sort of primed and ready to go. But if you just get a 19-year-old that's been badly coached for 7 years and is an ego-driven, it's so hard to get that shit out of him, I think.
Yeah.
But
what's better for you? A player that's maybe not as technically gifted but mentally has the right headspace to grow, or a technically really gifted player but his mindset's terrible?
Wow, I don't think I can favour one. They're two different challenges. They're two different people. Yeah, I would. Yeah, there's obviously different ways to deal with them, with them both, and they've got different needs. But yeah, look, that's something that I face. I face at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that you come across all the time. I've never really. Yeah, I don't think the approach changes. To be honest, while they might have different needs, it's still just developing them really as a person. So my main philosophy is that what you can do is irrelevant to me. You know, what you can do now, it's secondary. You know, it's all about who you are, because who you are determines what you're going to be able to do in the future.
of course.
So with every player, it's about, okay, what type of person are you? You know, so there could be an incredibly technical gifted player, but has no desire to improve. That's the most important. We need to address that.
Yeah.
You know, then there could be a player that's not so technically gifted with the same desire not to improve.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
so that's the starting point. That's the starting point.
That got me right in the feels, that one. Because it's true, man. Like in Italy, like that's what it was about. Like as much, football, you live, breathe it, whatever. You go to training, it's all full on. But it's about being a good person. Yeah, that's the philosophy.
I think it's very important because 1-2% are going to make it.
What happens after?
What about exactly? Not only that, like you said, that desire, that drive. Then he might become a businessman.
That's right.
He can bring that mentality into that, you know? So it's a whole life thing.
On this topic of good person, though, I think that idea of a good person here is flawed.
Yeah.
Like in Australia, a good person is a nice person.
Yeah, of course.
Exactly.
You've got to have
So
that. I won't say the word, but
You can say the word. You told me before I can
Yeah,
swear.
got a bit of
you know what I mean?
We just lost Spotify.
Alright, for me, I'll say it, but I don't know the rules these days. Everyone's gets
right.
offended. So
explicit content.
No,
It's
look,
all good.
he's going to listen to this, but your cousin and me, there was a perfect example. Yeah?
you'll see.
He's going to listen to this. But that man is what Maddie said. Yeah? But I've got so much respect for him.
Sure.
Yeah? Because there's different definitions of what a good person is. But most Australians look at him and go, he's a...
But he's straight down the line. Like he'll tell you what he's thinking.
But he's honest.
He's honest.
You
Exactly
know?
right.
He's honest. He knows what he wants.
Exactly.
He's very clear. And like that's the thing. Like with Australia, everyone's trying to be nice
So
all the
true.
time.
And it doesn't mean you're a bad person if you're not nice.
No, that's
the-
right.
the
Exactly.
notion
Well,
behind
if
it.
you want something,
exactly,
you know, and someone's standing in your way or someone's not doing the right thing,
exactly,
you can't just stand by and be nice.
100%.
You know, like if but this is how, you know, things in some societies have gone terrible places because people were doing wrong things and everyone was trying to be nice about it and not stand up and not rebel.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's
Definitely.
being a good person and developing someone as a person is not
100%.
teaching them to be nice to everyone all the time.
No.
It's more dynamic than that.
And exactly. It's important in life, and then it goes back to football as well. I remember our coaches always used to say to a whole team, "You're too nice. You're too nice. You're too nice." And we didn't realize until we went there, and we're like, we are too nice.
And it's a thing that you realise, like you said, it's in life. Like you can't just be that nice guy there, because if you want something, you're gonna get walked all over, and it doesn't mean you have to be a prick.
Yeah.
But it means you know what you want, you know what you stand for, and you adhere to those things.
Yeah.
I know we could speak all day about these things, but there's probably one thing I wanted to maybe finish it off with. So where do you see Frankie in like maybe 10 years? What's your dream as a coach? Like what would be your ultimate goal and dream as a coach?
Barcelona head coach.
Like do you aspire to, is that one of your aspirations?
Look, I get asked this all the time,
to go
and
to
I'm the most unambitious person in terms of my goals.
Come on, man.
I really am.
Have you ever thought about something that you think, well, it'd be great? Would you love to maybe take a team of Melbourne City overseas or something? I don't know if the possibility came.
Yeah, maybe even short term.
We're going to Singapore actually in April.
there you
We are
go.
taking a team,
There you
but Look, there's two missions for me, and the one is to help the players, and help them develop as people, and help them to reach their full potential. Any player that I'm responsible for, I'm going to do that with them and do the best that I can at it. And that's always been my mission, and that's my approach from the start. It was never about my own success, it was never about my own career. Ever since RFI and Moreland Wolves and those under 8s, it was always about how can I help these kids, and then on to the next thing. But it was always the same as how can I help these players. So I think that's always going to be my approach. And then another mission that I've got is to improve things here. And that's always from the start as well. It's one of the reasons I got involved with RFI, because I saw another side, and I saw what that was doing for the broader football community. And even now with the team that I've got, trying to push them and stretch them and to push them to a level that they've never been to before is about progressing the game here for me. It's one of my missions about if they can achieve another level, then they're going to raise the level for everyone, and that'll hopefully improve things here. But that's kind of my two missions. The third one is for me to continue to have experience, continue to learn about the game. Yeah. So for there, I'd love to go overseas again and have a role over there. Yeah. That'd be something that for sure would open my eyes to another level of strategy and ideas and philosophy. Yeah. But it's not for the sake of me landing a role,
of course.
To be honest.
It'd just be an unbelievable experience for yourself in what you want to do. Maybe Manchester City might come knocking the under 18s. You never know. If you're winning 18-0 every week, then
exactly. That's amazing, but it's a bit romantic for me, honestly, because part of what we do, why we do it, is the same sort of thing you do on a different sort of aspect. We focus on the culture side of things, right? But we would love to improve football in this country, whether it's off the pitch, on the pitch. Everything revolving around the ball, right? 100%. You're on the pitch, maybe we're off the pitch.
Making it easier for people like when we were young. Yeah. That don't have to go through the bullshit. Yeah. That we went through, and just to play football, it was always a mission, or to get that experience or opportunity. Whereas we wanted to make it accessible to the young generation.
Yeah. It makes me so happy that you said
100%.
So I'm very happy that you're sitting here saying those things. And if I have kids one day that want to play football, they're going to this man right here.
I might be in Italy.
Even better. I'll send them straight away. As soon as I kick the ball, they're leaving here. If it's still shit like it is now, are you kidding me?
When do you expect to have kids, bro? They're still going to not be great when you have kids. So
I don't know, but
look,
kids are 50 old.
Look, I hope things improve. I'm going to do everything I can, but things are not improving.
No,
they're not improving.
I think it's gone back. I don't want to start now again. But
do you know how I judge it? People look at the A-League and stuff like that, but I judge it on youth tournaments. When I go down to a youth tournament and I see the way teams play, because the way teams play is a representation of how they're being developed.
Exactly.
That's it. That's they say it all the time. Like overseas, they say it all the time. You're like, don't judge a coach on his sessions or his ideas or the way he talks. Judge him by his team's performance on the pitch. Yeah. The way the kids act, the way they play, the way that they respond to certain situations. And at the moment, it's bad, and it has been bad since I first started coaching. I still go down and look and watch and see teams play, and it's unbearable to watch. Whereas you'd watch an RFI team back in the day, and it was like people would come up to me after the game, be like, that was that was incredible. Like they'd love it. They'd love the way the teams.
Yeah.
And that's the power of a style of play and an idea and good coaching is you see that representation on the pitch and you can connect with it. People connect with it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So that's the power of it. Yeah. So.
What a chat.
Yep.
What a chat.
Could be keep going all day.
Actually, might have to get you on for another one actually. But I think I'll speak for us both. We're pretty lucky to have you involved in football.
Definitely.
It's refreshing to have someone like you with your mentality that actually cares, because it's hard to come by.
And you're in it for the right reasons.
Exactly, especially with youth development, which for me is the biggest issue in this country, revolving football. So thank you very much.
Thank you, boys. Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Man.
This is, of all the podcasts I've been on, this has been I've only been on your two. I've only ever been on a podcast with you guys, but hey, it's been the best podcast I've ever been on. Yeah, put it that way.
I'll take
and keep doing what you're doing, boys. I'll listen to some of the other ones. Thanks. Some good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hopefully not just being nice, but thank you. So thanks for listening, guys. Make sure you follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcast from. Chuck us a follow on Instagram, everything else, all the other socials, and we'll see you next week. Ciao.
Ciao, boys.